Everyone's different. You just have to find what's right for you. And that's why I do like talking about trial and error, because that's all I'm trying to do here as I get older is through trial and error, trying to figure out, well, what's going to work for me? What kind of movement's going to work for me? How do I want to feel right now? How do I want to feel in the future? What can I do right now to try to achieve that?
You just figure it out as you go. Like anything you do, you're never going to start something the first time and get it right, no matter what it is. So it's just educate yourself as much as possible and then go, and then figure it out.
Anybody can do this. It's just a question of making up your mind, finding out what you need, finding out those baby steps, and getting outside and doing it.
Welcome to Late Bloomer Living, the podcast where we're all about shaking up our ideas about what it means to grow older. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your resident age agitator and play instigator. Around here, we believe midlife is the perfect time to play, to reinvent, and bloom like you mean it. Let's go. Hello, my friend, and wow, this is the 5-year anniversary episode of the Late Bloomer Living podcast. I honestly cannot believe that it's been that long, and yet it's felt like the most natural evolution of everything that I've been learning and unlearning and leaning into over the last several years. I have learned so much doing this podcast from my guests, from you. It blows my mind. So the voices that you heard at the very beginning of the podcast there were Mimi Eisen, Lynn McNutt, and Deirdre Wallenick. They have all been guests on the podcast in the past, and I will put links in the show notes for this episode to those original episodes. They are a few of my very favorites. And I think the reason that I chose those particular clips to lead into this interview is because each one of them talks about the idea of figuring it out as you go and just doing it. It's kind of what I've been doing here. If you have been here since the beginning, thank you. And if you're newer to the party, welcome. I wanted to use this milestone as a moment to reflect not just on the podcast, but on what it's taught me about aging, about play, about ageism, and I guess honestly about myself. And I hope that in talking about this, you're going to find something for yourself in here too. So goodness, let's talk about why I started this podcast. It goes back a ways. Let's just say you can always go back to my origin story, which is episode 1 of this podcast. But I have to say that the real nut of it, and I don't remember if I talked about this in that podcast episode, is that when I was in my late 40s, guys, I was struggling. Total struggle bus all through my 40s. And I was hitting the snooze button every morning because I did not want to get up and face the day. And I would hit the snooze button over and over, which was like just starting me off on the wrong foot every stinking day. My kids were younger at the time, and so I was running late, and of course they were going to run late. They're kids. And of course they were running late. They were kids. They weren't going to, they weren't great at getting themselves ready to go out the door. And this one morning, everything was going wrong, and I was yelling at my kids to get their backpacks and their lunches and all the things. Let's go. And I guess I went a little overboard, because by the time we got down to the car and everybody got buckled in, I looked in the rearview mirror, and my kid had these big fat tears in his eyes. And I I was so mad at myself because I realized that I had been having a proper adult tantrum is what had been happening. And I felt like such a loser. I felt like, I was like, I'm almost 50 years old. What is wrong with me? Why does everybody else in the world seem to have this adulting thing figured out? Why does everybody else seem to have life figured out and I don't? And I knew something had to change. And so I came back and, talked to my husband a little bit about it. And he said, I've been listening to this book by Mel Robbins, The 5-Second Rule. I think you'll like it. Why don't you check it out? And so I started listening to it, and I could relate to so much of what she was talking about because she had a little love fest with her snooze button at one point too. And, my husband and I would have a drink after work every night, just a drink, I'm not ever going to say I had a drinking problem, but I think in my 40s or so, drink didn't agree with my body. Looking back now, after producing a podcast for 5 years, I can tell you that I was in perimenopause and I didn't know it. So the drink every night was not setting me up well to sleep well at night. And Mel Robbins talked about that in her book. So anyway, as I'm reading her book, she talked about like breaking up with the snooze button and taking your alarm and putting it across the room. And I thought, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try that one thing. And I decided to commit for 30 days to trying a morning routine of getting up and meditating every day and moving my body every day. And that's what started this whole thing. That one little thing. I had no idea it was going to lead me to start a podcast. But that is essentially what started everything, because when I started, when I committed to doing the 30 days and I did it, and I didn't break my word to myself, that was big. And here's the other thing. Within a couple of weeks, I started to feel a lot better, and I started to have more energy, and I started to feel hopeful about my future. And when I realized I was feeling more hopeful about my next 20 or 30 years ahead of me, I thought, oh, Yvonne, you have been telling yourself you're getting old and that it's all downhill. Aha. Talk about an aha moment. And that aha got me to thinking, maybe I'm not the only one who doesn't have this figured out. Maybe there's other people who also feel that way. Go figure. And I got the idea for doing the podcast eventually. I can't tell you what the timeline was, but that was the germ of it. And it took me 2 years to start the podcast, and that's its own whole story. I did not feel like I was qualified. I certainly didn't know how to do a podcast. I had a lot of learning to do. I thought I would need to pay somebody to edit for me. I had a whole lot of reasons for not starting the podcast, most of them based around time and money. But in the end, when I realized it was really imposter syndrome keeping me back, that's when I knew that I had to push myself past that, let's just call it stinking thinking, which is what it was, and just try. Just do it and see what was to come of it. So what have I learned in the 5 years since I've started podcasting? So many things. Aging isn't a decline. There may be some physical decline. There may be some mental decline even, but it's not just a decline, it's a deepening of your life experience. That's what I'm learning from the guests. I'm getting all verklempt here, but that's what I've been learning from guests and from you. The other thing I've been learning is it's not about becoming less relevant in the world. It's about becoming more of you, more of me. It's about us coming home to ourselves as we get older. How exciting is that? Isn't that more exciting than being invisible or, just giving in to the whole, oh, I'm getting older thing? Aging has brought me clarity and confidence and more trust in myself. I mean, one of my favorite guests, and she's been on the podcast a couple of times, is Melissa Davey, who didn't start filmmaking until her 60s. I'll put links to her episodes that she's been on in the show notes. Can't remember them right off the top of my head. But she didn't start making documentary films until she was in her 60s, after a whole other career. And her latest film about Deirdre Wallenick, it's called Climbing into Life, and it's out on the film festival circuit. And she's winning awards at all these film festivals. That's not just a fun fact, my friend. That is a radical challenge to everything that we've been taught about getting older. First of all, the movie Climbing into Life is about a 70-year-old woman scaling El Capitan in Yosemite. And I have not seen the film yet. I have not had the honor of being able to be at one of those film festivals. I'm dying to see this movie. But I can tell you right now that I know it's not about climbing a mountain. It's about climbing our internal mountains. I know that. I just know it. We receive messages every day that say that we should shrink, stay quiet, fade out. And the podcast has taught me to say no to all of that. And I guess what I'm starting to talk about now, I moved into a whole new topic, but I think I want to reflect on what I've learned about ageism. There are subtle ways that internalized ageism shows up in your life. And I think it's especially strong in women, because I think that ageism against women is much harsher than it is for men. I'm just going to say that. I'm taking that stand. And how it shows up in me still, even though I've been doing this podcast for 5 years, is when I find myself second guessing if I'm too old to start something and doubting whether or not it's a good idea to start something purely based on my age, not based on anything else necessarily, but I still have those thoughts. They are baked in, and I'm doing everything I can to call myself out on those thoughts and go, wait a minute. Did you see what you did there, Yvonne? And I invite you to do the same thing. Yeah, we get those messages every day. Let's say no to it. What do you say? I have learned from this podcast personally how important representation is, how important it is to see myself in other people, in the guests that have been on my podcast. Getting a chance to talk to people who have had a breakthrough of some sort helps me see what's possible for me. And I hope it helps you see what's possible for you too. When we see ourselves represented in the world via somebody else's story, it plants the seeds of possibility for what you are capable of. Here's another little fun thing I want to talk about, and that is what I have learned about play since I started this podcast. And funny enough, I think the seeds of this inquiry into what playfulness is, I think it started very soon. the idea of putting ourselves in the position of being a beginner as the gateway to possibility, that has been very strong as a thesis of mine since I started this podcast. And I'm just becoming more and more convinced that curiosity is the most underrated superpower, and that curiosity is tied directly to play and access to joy. I think that, most of you listening are from the United States, and we put an awful lot of emphasis on work ethic here in the United States. And it's just as ever present in conversations as those ageist ideas that I was talking about a minute ago. If you listen to any conversation with somebody, you're going to hear people talking about, oh, how busy they are and, how hard they're working. I guarantee you, if you really listen for it, you're going to hear it. We wear busyness as a badge of honor in this country. I do it. I recognize it, and it's something I'm working to change because I don't think it serves us. And part of playing is part of my quest to learn how to be in the world and trust that I have every right to take up space exactly as I am, that I don't have to be productive in every flippin' moment of the day. So getting playful means noticing what brings me joy, what makes me laugh through the day, and doing more of it. Do more of what makes you feel good. It's really simple, but it's also hard to do because I think we've all forgotten that it's okay. Like when we're kids, we're supposed to go out and play. The mom says, hey, go outside and play. Go outside and play. Then as you get older as a kid, that messaging starts to shift to do your homework, get your chores done. And it really is a well-intentioned thing because teachers and parents want you to be a productive person in the world and fit in and be responsible and all that stuff. But at what cost? It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You don't get to play anymore. That's frivolous. That's immature. But there's so many good things to be had from play. We learn when we play. Our brains make connections, and it's stress relief. I can't tell you how completely convinced I am that you need to be playing more. No matter how much you are already playing, I think you need to be playing more. This is your permission, okay? It's not a luxury. It's how we reconnect with our aliveness, with who we've always been. Playing more has helped me to think about this podcast in creative ways. It's helped me to think about how I want a business to grow around this podcast. And it's helping me tap into new creativity. Like I'm learning to kind of like draw in watercolor. I never thought I would do that. I'm purely a stick figure artist kind of girl, but I'm doing an art journal every day because I thought, let's try that. I admire people who can make art on the page. Why am I telling myself I can't do it? Why not just do it? Not to get good at it, I do want to get good at it, but I'm not going to be a professional artist. I want to do it for the sake of doing it. Roller skating is that for me. Never going to be a professional roller skater, but every time I'm on my skates, I feel free. I feel focused. Time flies. That is play. You may not want to get on your roller skates. Cool. Don't. Go find something else that speaks to you. pick up a good book, write a poem, learn how to knit, learn how to crochet. I don't care. Do something that feels good to you, that keeps you learning and focused, just for fun. Not about perfection, not about getting good, not about building skills. There you go. That's my soapbox for today. I'm going to be offering my play shop again soon. By the way, if you want to really learn how to tap into this for yourself, some practical ways. And my book came out of this. That little book of flowers that I made in full bloom, A Guide to Aging Playfully. That book came from an inquiry into what does it mean to age playfully or live playfully at any age. What could that look like? So I guess the last thing I wanted to reflect on is what I've learned about myself. The truth is, I am still learning, and I'm getting comfortable with the fact that I will always be learning. I will never get there. I don't know where there is. I still get scared to take chances and to try new things and to be a beginner. I still have to remind myself to take the leap to do things. Here's a few things where I've gained some ground. I have more confidence in myself because I have challenged myself above and beyond anything that I've ever done before, besides being a mom, let's say. Doing this podcast has been a challenge just to keep going weekly. And that has given me greater self-trust. I am learning slowly to be less of a people pleaser and opening myself up more to make deeper connections with others, especially other women. And I've realized that reinvention, this is one of my favorite things. Listen in here. Reinvention is not about changing yourself. It's about changing how you think about yourself. I'm going to say it again for those of you sitting in the back. Reinvention is not about changing yourself. It's about changing how you think about yourself. And it's not a one-time thing. You might reinvent today and find yourself reinventing again tomorrow, 5 years from now, whatever. That's life. What if we embraced it with excitement and playfulness? And there you have it. Thank you so much for being part of this journey with me. Whether you've listened to one episode or 100, this podcast exists because I believe deeply that any age is the perfect age to bloom, and we don't do it alone. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a note. You can send me an email, latebloomerliving@gmail.com. Let me know your story. And if you are curious about the Play Shop, you can get on the wait list for the next time I'm going to offer it, or check out the Age Agitators Club. Just get in touch with me and we can talk about where you're at and what might be a good fit for you right now. Yeah, there you go, my friend. Here's to blooming wildly, joyfully, and on our own timeline.